Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into these topics.
Yeah, and today we're tackling something I think we all struggle with a little bit.
hmm
Um, how to ask for help in English,
Especially.
especially at work.
Yeah, at work, absolutely.
When you're new somewhere,
Yeah.
or even if you've been there a while,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just awkward
It is.
to be like, hey,
Yeah, you don't want to seem
I need a
act
and.
incompetent.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Right.
You should know this.
Right. You want to project that you're capable and you can handle it, but everyone needs help.
Exactly.
So,
So let's break down some of those phrases that can make it a little less cringy, whether you need a tiny favor from a coworker or, got to interrupt your boss.
yeah, because those are two very different levels
Oh,
of
totally.
formality needed.
Okay, so let's start super basic. First day at the job, you hear that welcome on board.
hmm
Seems straightforward, but is there more to it?
There is, it's more than just a hi. It actually comes from like literally being on board a ship or a plane, back in the day. But now it's expanded to mean joining any team or project.
So it's kind of like we're all in this together.
Exactly. You're part of the crew now.
I like that makes you feel less alone on day one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's say you do need to ask something work-related. I hear about to used a lot, but not always sure how it fits in.
About to is perfect when you're the one who's about to do something urgently. Like imagine a coworker asks for help, but you're literally on your way out the door.
Oh, yeah, they're there.
So instead of just I'm busy, which is vague, you say I'm about to head out.
So it's like, I'm leaving right now, but maybe you have a super quick question.
Exactly. It gives them a tiny chance to still catch you. Speaking of alternatives, what about the word instead?
Ooh, good one. That's when you're offering something different, right? Like at a
Ah,
restaurant, I'll have the salad instead of the fries.
precisely. At work, it's great for redirecting someone if they ask you for help, but you're swamped, you can say, I'm slammed right now. Maybe Sarah could help instead.
Oh, that's so much nicer than just a flat out no. Okay, this is when I really struggle with interrupting people. Feels rude, but sometimes you got to do it.
Absolutely. And the word interrupt itself means breaking into something that's already in progress.
Which is inherently kind of disruptive.
It is, but there are polite ways to do it.
Like if your boss is in a meeting, you don't just barge in.
Exactly. You got to use those phrases that soften the blow. Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, they acknowledge you're disrupting, but it's important.
Now let's combine that with actually asking for a favor. What are some ways to do that?
Well, the most basic one, can I ask you a favor?
Straight to the point, but we can make it even better. Can I get you to do me a favor? Implies it's a bigger ask, requiring more effort.
So like, can I get you to cover my shift? Sounds more serious than just any favor.
Exactly. Now let's put this into practice. Imagine your new coworker is rushing around, clearly lost. How would you approach them? Don't worry about perfect grammar, just the general idea.
I'd probably smile and be like, hey, you seem a bit lost. Anything I can help you find?
Perfect. That open, friendly tone is key. You're not just offering help, you're showing you're approachable and a team player. Now imagine that same coworker looks stressed because they can't find a file on the computer. What then?
Ooh, that's trickier. I wouldn't want them to feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
Maybe. Having some trouble with the system. I'm pretty good with the file. Maybe I can take a look.
Excellent. You're acknowledging the situation without making them feel bad and showcasing your skills builds trust from day one. But what if you need a file and it's on your boss's computer? That power dynamic can be intimidating.
Oh man, yeah, I'd probably start super polite. Sorry to bother you, but and then maybe would it be all right if I quickly access that file on your computer?
Very good. You combine the polite opening with a clear request. Now here's a curveball. You know your boss is swamped, but you absolutely need that file to finish your task. How do you phrase it so it's still respectful but conveys the urgency?
Ooh, okay. I think I'd try. I hate to interrupt, but I'm really stuck without that file. Would it be possible to get it for a few minutes, even if you're busy?
Perfect. You acknowledge their busy schedule while emphasizing the file's importance to your work, making it a shared priority. We'll go deeper into handling those power dynamics later, but for now, think back to your own experiences. Is there a time you needed help at work but weren't sure how to ask? What made it tricky? Welcome back, everyone. So we just talked about all these situations at work where you might need to ask for help.
Yeah. And it can be tough, right? But you know what? Everyone needs help sometimes.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not a sign of weakness.
No way. In fact, I think knowing when and how to ask is a super valuable skill,
It really is. Shows you're willing to learn.
and that you're a team player. So let's quickly recap those phrases we covered for, making things a little smoother.
Okay, so for those polite interruptions, we have
Oh, yeah, like when you got to interrupt the bug, got to be nice about it.
exactly. You can use excuse me.
Uh,
Classic. Or and
that one I
is
love.
what
Yeah, that one really gets the point across that, you're interrupting, but you got to do it.
and for asking the favor itself, there's
The most basic one,
can I ask you a favor?
straight to the point,
Then we have can I get you to do me a favor?
which is like a step up, right? Implies it's a bigger ask.
Exactly. And then there's would it be all right if, which is good for when you need permission for something.
Ooh, yeah, good point.
Mm.
Like accessing something or maybe using someone's equipment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about asking for clarification.
Ooh, this is a good one. What about when your boss gives you instructions, but you're not 100% sure what they mean?
Oh, yeah, that happens to all of us.
I know. Sometimes I'm just too embarrassed to admit I don't understand.
I get it. But trust me, it's always better to ask than to make a mistake because you weren't clear on the instructions.
True. So, how can we ask for clarification without sounding clueless?
Well, let's say your boss told you to create a presentation. You could say something like, just to confirm, you want a PowerPoint presentation about our latest findings for the client meeting next week.
Okay, so you're not saying I don't get it. You're just double checking to make sure you're on the same page.
It's exactly. Shows you're paying attention and want to do a good job.
Love it. Takes the pressure off too.
It does. Now, what if your boss explains a new task and you need more than just confirmation? You need them to really break it down for you.
In that case, I might say, could you walk me through this? I want to make sure I understand each step.
Excellent. Walk me through this is a very useful phrase when you need that step-by-step explanation.
It shows you're eager to learn and not afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. But what if it's not a whole task? Just one specific point you're not clear on?
I'd probably say, could you clarify what you meant about and then the specific point?
Exactly. Being specific helps the other person understand exactly what you need.
Right. They're not left guessing what you're confused about.
Now imagine you're working on a project with a colleague and they use a term you've never heard before. How do you ask without interrupting the flow too much?
Ooh, that's tricky. Maybe I'd say something like, sorry, quick question. What does the term mean in this context?
Great. You acknowledge you have a question, but keep it brief and to the point.
So you're not derailing the whole conversation.
Exactly. Now let's flip the script. What if you're the one being asked for help and you're not sure if you have the time or the expertise to assist?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't want to seem unhelpful, but I also don't want to overcommit.
It's all about managing expectations and being honest. For example, if a colleague asks for help with something you're not familiar with, you could say, I'm not an expert in that area, but I can try to point you in the right direction.
Okay, so you're still being helpful without overpromising.
Exactly. Or if someone asks when you're swamped, you could say, I'd love to help, but I'm really busy right now. Could we maybe talk about it later this afternoon?
So you're not dismissing their request, you're just proposing a better time.
Right. It's all about communication, setting boundaries, and finding that balance between being helpful and managing your own workload.
Makes sense. Now, before we move on, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt hesitant to ask for help, even when you really needed it? What held you back? It's funny, right? We talk about all these phrases and tips, but sometimes the hardest part is actually just deciding to ask.
Oh, absolutely. It's like there's a mental block.
Totally. You worry about seeming incompetent or bothering people.
Exactly. Like
Okay.
you should know this already, or you're wasting their time.
But here's the thing I've found. Most people are actually happy to help.
They are, especially at work.
Yeah, it shows you're willing to learn and you value their input.
So how do we get over that hump and ask with confidence?
Well, I think being direct helps a lot. Like instead of all apologetic, sorry to bother you, but I have a tiny problem.
Yeah, that just makes it sound worse.
Just come out and say, I need some help with this. Could you spare a few minutes?
Exactly. Straight to the point. Shows you respect everyone's time. And the more specific you are about what you need, the better.
So instead of, I'm stuck on this project, it's, I'm having trouble with this calculation in the spreadsheet. Can you show me how to do it?
Perfect. Gives them all the info they need to help you effectively.
And don't be afraid to admit if you're new to something.
Oh, yeah, like, I'm new to this software. Could you give me a quick rundown?
Exactly. Sets clear expectations from the start. And of course, always remember to say thank you.
Oh, absolutely. A little gratitude goes a long way.
So to recap when asking for help, be direct. Be clear about what you need.
Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know.
Be specific about the help you're requesting.
And always say thank you.
Mastering these skills can honestly make your work life so much easier.
It really can.
Right.
You'll get the help you need to succeed and build stronger relationships with your colleagues.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
We are, and knowing how to ask for help is part of being a good team member.
So true. Now, as we wrap up, I want you to think about this. Who are the people at work you feel most comfortable asking for help?
And who are the people you maybe hesitate to ask?
That's a great point. Reflecting on those relationships can help us figure out who to rely on and maybe even where we can improve those connections.
Exactly. Because having a supportive network is so important both at work and in life.
Absolutely. So don't be afraid to reach out, ask for help when you need it, and offer help to others whenever you can.
Keep practicing those phrases and remember, everyone needs a hand sometimes.
Until next time, happy learning.